Good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin with a scary situation on the city's north side. A woman and a young child have been sent to hospital after the child, who was strapped into a stroller, went into McVicker Creek this afternoon.
The condition of the child is still unknown at this time. Thunder Bay Police, Fire Rescue, and Superior North EMS all responded to the incident just before 1 o'clock. Fire rescue crews entered the water and located the child, using a rope system to pull them from the rushing waters. The water level in McVicker Creek has been high and fast flowing throughout the day. Officials haven't confirmed the relationship between the child and the woman. Inspector Ryan Gibson was on scene. He says there's little additional information at this time.
We're dispatched here to Court McVicker for a water rescue. First responders enter the water. The rescue was performed, and right now we have one child that's going to take to the Thunder Bay Regional Health Sciences Center and one adult. Bring our assets into place that we'll need as far as processing the entire scene. And as you can imagine, these are difficult things for our investigators and officers.
Police say they'll provide more updates as they become available.
A flood warning is in effect in the Thunder Bay area following significant rainfall overnight. Water levels are rising in several local river systems, particularly the Whitefish River, which has caused flooding in the village of Heimers. The warning applies to the city of Thunder Bay and surrounding organized townships. Lee Noonan has more.
The Lakehead Region Conservation Authority issued the warning. They say water levels have begun to peak, but that additional rain is expected overnight, which could cause water levels to rise again. They report flooded roads throughout the area and caution travelers to be aware of quickly changing conditions.
So we are advising people to stay away from fast-flowing water and slippery banks. And if you encounter a flooded road, turn around, don't drown. Obviously, you don't know what's going on underneath, so do never drive through a flooded road.
Conservation Authority CAO Tammy attributes the rising waters to 21 to 35 millimeters of rain which fell overnight, adding to the spring melt which caused already high water levels in some watercourses, including the Nebing River. Indeed, water has been flowing in the usually dry Nebing-McIntyre floodway for the first time in years.
So the Nebing-McIntyre floodway is diverting. It has diverted for approximately 14 days so far this spring, which is the first time it's diverted in 5 years. So it is preventing flooding in that lower Nebing River area and the intercity area.
Cook explains that the floodway was constructed to restrict flow to the lower Nebing River, without which areas like the Thunder Center would be underwater. With rain expected again overnight and thunderstorm warnings issued over the next few days, the Conservation Authority expects a prolonged period of high water. They ask parents to keep children away from waterways and to talk to them about the dangers of fast-moving water. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Flooding also continues to plague other communities across the Northwest. Just hours ago, Martin Falls First Nation declared a state of emergency, joining Red Lake, Kenora, Fort Francis, which also declared states of emergency in recent days. As of this afternoon, Highway 105 to Red Lake remains closed at Buller Creek. Smaller vehicles are able to detour around, but larger tractor trailers can't. Additionally, culvert repairs on Highway 599 to Pickle Lake are underway for the second time this week. High water levels have also put strains on water management systems in several communities. Adam Riley has the details.
This is what the waterfront in Dryden looked like on Monday, with water just beginning to creep over the sides of the walkway that runs along the Wabigoon River. And by Wednesday, it had completely submerged. This only represents a tiny calm snapshot of the situation, as less than 100 meters away, a raging torrent flows. At the top of the Domtar Dam, the water is almost cresting over the structure as it attempts to regulate the flow. A release from the company says due to the recent melt and large amount of rainfall, the water levels have exceeded the upper threshold set out by the province. Dryden Mayor Greg Wilson is concerned as everyone is in what he calls a damned if they do, damned if they don't situation.
From what I'm hearing, that of course the problem is if they try and reduce the water flow because there's so much flooding downstream from the dam, then they risk increasing the water levels and putting pressure on their dam infrastructure as well, right? If they're holding back that much volume of water. But if they let it go, then it's going to cause more problems downstream.
Dryden CAO Roger Nesbitt says the dam is trying to hold the line to protect homes and infrastructure downstream, noting area highways, including Highway 17, the railway, and the Wainwright generating station are all in imminent danger. It's a similar situation downstream from the Eagle River Hydro Dam, where the outflow has caused Highway 17 to be flooded and at times entirely closed. Currently, fire crews from the MNRF have been providing sandbags to residents in those unorganized townships affected by flooding. Meanwhile, the Agamak River, which runs through Ignace, threatens to crest over several culverts in that community. A real concern lies with Agamak Lake, which is still predominantly frozen. A quick melt could threaten lakeside homes and other municipal assets.
We are monitoring it very, very closely. One of the things we're thinking about doing is taking some of the water, because the culvert isn't big enough to take the flow, putting some pumps in there and pumping the water right over the road and into the creek on the other side and giving it a hand and see if we can maybe do something that way.
Lucas is also worried that ice flows could break loose and jam up culverts. On Wednesday, a release from the town of Fort Frances states it has updated its emergency declaration to include flooding and begun sandbagging operations. Additionally, the town of Atikokan is monitoring outflows from area lakes that flow into the Atikokan River and through the community. Adam Riley, TBT News.
A search for unmarked graves will soon get underway at the site of a former residential school here in northwestern Ontario. The Wajishkanigam Nation near Kenora will begin that process with a special ceremony on Monday. The St. Mary's Indian Residential School operated in the community from 1897 to 1972. More than 6,100 children from several First Nations in the Northwest and Manitoba attended the institution. Records from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission show at least 36 of those children never made it home, but survivors believe that number is actually much higher. The search is being led by a survivors group from the school. Wajishkanigam Nation is getting almost $3 million over 3 years from the province and Ottawa to undertake the archaeological investigation.
All four party leaders have been out making promises on the provincial campaign trail today. The Greens delivered a costed platform, and PC leader Doug Ford spoke to the media for the first time since last weekend. He was asked about Stephen Lecce's participation in a, quote, slave auction as a university student. Siobhan Morris has the story.
Progressive Conservative leader Doug Ford was trumpeting a new highway for Kitchener. But in his first formal media event since Sunday, he was asked about former Education Minister Stephen Lecce's participation in a slave auction in 2006.
He's acknowledged that it was inappropriate, and he's apologized for attending this event as a teenager. And, you know, Minister Lecce has been a strong advocate of combating racism in schools, and he has my full support.
Ford says he wasn't too happy hearing about PC MPPs getting income top-ups from riding associations.
I want to sit down with all the parties. I want to take a good hard look at these rules and tighten them up.
You need time to process and regulate what's happened to you.
Both the NDP and Liberals are illuminating their plans to improve mental health support.
Making sure people can pay for services with their OHIP card and not their credit card. We can boost up access to mental health care by expanding the number of people that are providing services.
The Liberals have committed to hiring 3,000 more mental health workers, 1/3 dedicated to at-risk youth.
Not everyone is okay right now. People are struggling, and they do need help. And they do need a government and a premier and a team at Queen's Park that understands that they need that help.
The Green Party's taken the wraps off its full platform, one that aims to cut carbon emissions in half by 2030 while keeping affordability in mind.
With a $12.4 billion plan to expand transit, to make our streets safe for walking and cycling, and to ensure that average folks can afford an electric vehicle or an electric bike.
Shriner's also pitching a paid holiday for Election Day.
Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Tonight we continue our look at the candidates in the Thunder Bay-Atikokan riding. Eric Arner is running for the Green Party. The first-time candidate hopes this year voters will give the Greens a chance. Jessa Clement has more.
Eric Arner is an Atikokan high school teacher who has called northwestern Ontario his home for a decade. Even though it's his first time running in an election, he says he and the Green Party have a lot to offer voters. Arner has developed a deep connection with farmlands and forests in this region, and he intends to preserve and protect them.
I think just that a sustainable future is within our reach if we make some big, important choices and work hard to make those things happen. And the Green Party is leading the way, and just wanted to be a part of that.
Arner also wants to focus on making life more affordable for everyone, in particular when it comes to housing.
The Green Party has one of the most ambitious plans in that sector as well. And in fact, that's one of those ideas other parties have kind of jumped on, and when they saw our numbers for housing and new housing starts and supported housing, then other parties have jumped in and adjusted their numbers to try and keep up with that.
Arner says despite being new to the game, he has been paying close attention to politics and knows what issues matter to people in the riding. And despite being the underdogs, Arner is hoping voters will give him and the Green Party a chance here.
I know myself and other people I've been talking to when we've been out canvassing, it's just so true that once all those people meet down in Toronto, they seem to forget about how big and how far away we are up here. And our issues are different. We need people up here that are a strong voice.
Jessica Clement, TBT News.
COVID-19 cases have gone down today at the Thunder Bay Regional Health Sciences Center. Yesterday, there were 44 cases. That was a near 2.5-month high. Today, the number of COVID patients in hospital has fallen back to 37, with 3 in intensive care. The hospital's occupancy rate has dipped below 98%, while the occupancy rate in the ICU is nearly 73%. And the Thunder Bay District Health Unit has declared another COVID-19 outbreak, this time at the Southbridge Pineview Care Home in the Blue Heron Unit.
As Russia's war in Ukraine rages on and with safety top of mind, Russia's neighbor, Finland, has indicated that it's ready to become a member of NATO. Thunder Bay has the largest Finnish population outside of Finland. Corey Nordstrom brings us local reaction to the news.
Finland appears poised to join NATO. Finnish Parliament will debate the move on Monday, but a majority of lawmakers have already signaled their support. Finland already takes part in NATO military exercises, and becoming an official member would allow the country direct NATO protection if neighboring Russia were to attack. Thunder Bay has the largest Finnish population in the world outside of Finland. Thunder Bay's honorary Finnish consul, Pasi Pinta, supports the move and believes that Russian President Vladimir Putin has brought this upon himself.
Dictating to neighboring countries and limiting their sovereignty, that Finland is absolutely against, and wants to and will make its own decisions. Russia is making its own stories about that, as we know, and can very much expect all kinds of rhetoric.
The Ukrainian invasion has left Finnish people very concerned. The country has fought 2 wars against Russia. Pinta says that joining NATO is a decision that Finnish people are overwhelmingly behind.
It's an excellent defensive alliance that is there to prevent wars from happening in the first place. Work from the perspective that the best weapons are weapons that are never used, and have a defensive alliance that will hopefully keep wars away rather than bring them in.
NATO officials have indicated they'd accept Finland with open arms. Sweden could also follow suit. Russian officials say they see the move as a threat. Corey Nordstrom, TBT News.
Despite being approved by Thunder Bay City Council more than a month ago, new zoning rules have been stalled by a number of appeals that have come forward. That means the old bylaw rules remain in effect until those are resolved. 5 appeals have been filed to Ontario's Land Tribunal. 4 of those relate to specific pieces of property. The other, a more general objection to care housing in residential zones. The city held multiple public engagement sessions before approving the bylaw on April 4th. The new plans were deemed visionary at the time, with backyard homes and additional units as part of those changes that are now on pause. But the city's planning director says those likely won't be affected by the Land Tribunal appeals.
The changes that we've made to promote an intensification, add additional uses or additional residential units, to introduce backyard homes, those are all regulations that we expect will move forward as they've been approved by council.
McEachern says it may take several months for the appeals to be resolved.